All right, so thank you. And today I will talk to you about Be My Copilot, how to pair program with AI. As that has been pretty, actually it's a basic question. So we are going to say a lot of obvious things, but obvious things are the ones that you never think about it. So, and once we were trying to understand how to introduce AI in our workflow, and we are still trying to figure it out, well, there was a lot of questions, actually, that we needed to ask ourselves. So I hope I will try to give you some hints. Those things are actually our ideas. Some are, you could be okay with them or you disagree. And I will love to hear something from you during the Q&A session. So my name is Davide, colleagues call me Dave, and I'm a senior software engineer in Synesthesia, web AI platform leader there, and I'm part of the CTO group there. I will try to go fast on known things, but I will also see some basic things so that we can be on the same page. As this talk is specifically built around to team leaders and developers, but I will try to make it planned. So AI as an assistant to devs, not only actually, but we're focusing on devs. And we are living a pretty incredible revolution. And we can do impressive things with AI. But AI is not just a tool. Of course, it is a tool, but we need to dominate it. We need to control it and not to lose control. And how many times some of you might have felt to lose control using GitHub Copilot, for example. So, Be My Copilot starts from the question, how can we introduce and or maintain AI in a teamwork environment without losing the basis of teamwork, communication and collaboration, and without losing professional and personal skills. Because that's not a problem right now, but it could be in the future. And today's journey will flow through a small generative AI recap to be everyone on the same page, and I will oversimplify things, and you will pardon me. We will see how communication and teamwork work together, and then we will have some AI adoption rules, ideas. And those are just ideas, but maybe they can give you some hint on how to work with AI in teams. And after that, I will show you some AI tools that maybe you can know, but we tested, and so you will have that slideshow. Also, a bit of a detail, you will see some QR code around the presentation. I will skip it fast, but you will be able to see them once you have the slides and once you have the recording. So let's take this step back, and let's do a quick recap for those of you who had been hibernating. And if you're here, well, you shouldn't have, right? But AI is around since the 50s. And AI is a pretty big word. So actually, what we are witnessing today is that AI field explosion. Transformer architecture, generative models, the release of GPT by OpenAI, and in fact, the release to the public of ChatGPT. That was a real breakthrough, because AI went in user hands with Siri, Google Now, Cortana, Alexa. We still turn the lights on, right, when we are at home. But releasing that kind of AI to the public, well, that was a breakthrough. And right now, as we are talking, people all around the world are talking with an AI, are communicating with a machine. And that's incredible. People of any age, any educational level, any profession, they are talking about a lot of things. And we need to understand how this works. So how generative AI this kind of AI, is different from traditional AI. And AI professionals will, pardon me, I am oversimplifying that. But in two sense, traditional AI is built to carry on specific tasks and optimized tasks, and are built around curated training data, labeled training data. So they are based actually around, most of the time, predefined rule-based system. And therefore, they have limited ability to adapt and to learn. While generative AI, well, generative AI has been built to generate incredible new output with a creative attitude that resembles human act, right? And so it is based on data and pattern inference and has a wider applicability across domains. And again, I'm still oversimplifying, but when you use ChatGPT, you're using that. And it's like rules, professional and everything, versus human-like creativity, kind of, actually. And our step back, again, is about communication. So we use communication since the beginning, right? And we never think about it, but communication is the basis of everything. And without communication, there's no business, there's no friendship, there's no love, there are no opportunity. And communication is pretty simple. We need at least two human beings that meet and start talking. And you have to communicate it all along during lunch break. And that's enough to create a communication. Hopefully, they will listen to each other too. But when we talk to a human being, we know there are some rules. Rules that are shared, rules that are socially accepted. And we are saying that to create communication, there is the needing of at least two human beings. Well, actually, people are communicating one human being to an AI, to a machine. And we do have rules. So before going on rules, let's see how teamwork works. And that's obvious too, but we need to create our context, just like GPT, right? So teamwork works when people create funnels of communication. And those funnels are intricate. And the best thing is when a team can create their own channels, own communication channels. And it occurs on a daily basis, at least, and on demand. So that ecosystem, it's very delicate. And if some of you have set up a team before, know that a team needs to be preserved. So how can we introduce AI inside a teamwork without breaking it? Well, when we use specifically AI-supported pair programming tools, because that's the focus today for me, we create a potentially continuous interaction inside an ecosystem that has daily basis communication and on-demand communications. So when we insert it in that equation, we get more frequently that kind of communication. And we could end with limited interaction if we are over-relying over AI. And it will save time. I'm not saying that that is bad, but it will actually break our work until now. So teamwork is multi-directional. And those communication channels are at least bidirectional when two people are talking to each other. And I have collected four specific base points on teamwork, but there are many more. But those are, for me, the most interesting and important. Mutual support is at the base of collaboration. And I know that I can rely on my teammate. And it's great if my teammate can rely on me. And therefore, we end up having synergy, working together at the same pace, at the same energy. We have motivation, because we can, as a company, motivate from the outside a team. But guess what? The best motivation we can get inside a team is self-motivation. And we know that our work sometimes could end up in having no motivation, but if we have something to baking us up, to help us up, then this becomes great. At the end, as team leaders, as companies, we need to support creative discussion. Creative discussion. That creative that we said before, talking about GPT, right? So creative discussion is fundamental to create an equal ecosystem where all team members can communicate to each other without any problem, right? If we have some problems, we can use some enhancing practices, and we're getting close, right? One of them, not very used, is the mob programming. People, all the team are working on the same feature, on the same key feature together. But we can end up with specific collaborative collaborative design sessions, in which we can give voice to anyone. This will lead us to create also brainstorming sessions when everyone can be heard. And last but not least, in order of importance, pair programming. It is pretty widely used outside, but pair programming is something that we need to understand to be on the same page so that we can go on. Traditional pair programming relies on two devs working together on the same feature. And the first dev is the driver. The driver physically writes the code and drives the logic. Is the one who carries on the real physical job. The second one, the observer or navigator, has a very important role, actually. He or she doesn't really act over the code, but does a real-time code review. It means that we can detect problems right when we are writing our code. And that role is fundamental in that equation. And it's fundamental that the driver can rely on the help, on the creative discussion created by the observer. So, right now, we are getting continuous interaction between two people while they are doing pair programming, and we have rules for them. But what happens when we talk about AI-supported pair programming? Actually, we do have a continuous integration, but are there any rules? So the question is, in this AI-supported pair programming equation, who's the driver? Who's driving? Who's taking control over what we are doing? Before going on, I am comparing positive aspects of traditional pair programming to AI-supported pair programming. And one of the best things is that if you use traditional pair programming, you get code review on the go. And if you use AI tools, you get immediate feedback. Both are incredible time savers. Second, when two people work and collaborate together, we get knowledge sharing. We get backup. We get co-ownership of our job. When we use AI-supported pair programming, on the other hand, it's not a knowledge sharing, but AI is actually suggesting things to us. And if we use those suggestions right, we get continuous improvements. And with traditional pair programming, we get thanks to the code review, early error detection. And thanks to AI-supported pair programming tools, we get less errors if they are well-trained on good code bases. And these can save time too. We know that traditional pair programming is sometimes is not used because there are also sort of negative aspects. But there are studies out there that say that even if there are negative aspects, pair programming actually saves money and time. But we could end with potential inefficiencies. While using AI-supported pair programming, we could end up in having less critical thinking by over-relying over AI suggestions. Then we can have collaboration opposition. Two people working together, incompatible people working together, could end up in problems. While using AI, we could get collaborative anesthesia. Well, that was epic, right? And while using traditional AI programming, we can end up with dependency errors. People that can work well only if they work together. That's the same. Now, before going on, I know that it's not going to go on, right? But before going on, I still have to do what I like to do. Say obvious things that I think we need to hear. So, to make things clear, we need to keep in mind some things. And the first one, obvious, is that humans make the decision through logic, of course, through analysis, of course, experience, emotions, and intuition. All those components are at the basis of human decision. So, I'm not surprised to see on a psychological search that almost 80% of human decisions are based on emotion and intuition based on experience. Assertion number one. AI does not think, to date at least. And GPT itself says that pretty clearly. I don't think the way humans do. Obvious. Assertion number two. AI does not feel and does not possess intuition. And GPT is pretty clear. You know what? Lack of emotions and intuition can limit the depth of understanding in situations where intuition, drawn from human experiences and emotion, is critical. Obvious. So, GPT says that AI might lack the basis of human decision. Assertion number three, it's the last one, I promise. AI comes with responsibilities, just like great powers, right? And the first responsibility, obvious too, if we know something about how AI is trained, is that it could introduce errors, and training data might be biased. It means that if training data are not that correct, we end up in errors. Just like as we are teaching to someone wrong things. And we need to understand, while accepting suggestions, that that suggestion might not be correct. And of course, AI might not be compliant to company regulations or its working methodologies. And we need to understand how to get out of that. And last, most important, AI is not responsible at all of the choices it makes. You are. That sounded epic, yeah? You are. Anyway, so it's just you. Another QR code. So, right now we are getting to the core. Let's try to put some rules together. Those are suggestions, and I really hope you can put on your rules, and if you have some, well done. It means that you have been thinking about this. So for team leaders and seniors, I will say, some rule ideas for team leaders on how we can introduce AI inside our workflow. First rule is to ensure adequate team training on AI usage and limitation. And that's obvious. But I can bet my head, hopefully, no one here that has introduced AI in their team has ever set up a training for their workers. Second, clarify, obviously, that AI is a support. It's not a replacement. No excuses. It's just a support to make us faster and hopefully smarter, but it's a support. Secondly, stimulate collaboration between developers. While introducing AI, you have to support that connection, that communications that you have been working so hard. Set up pilot projects before scaling. If you end up in, okay, we need to introduce AI all of a sudden, well, no. Make a pilot, measure the results so that you can understand where you can use AI and how can you improve AI usage in your company. So measure things. If you would adopt a new tool, a new communication tool, or a new project management tool, that would have been the right step to take. So AI isn't that different when used as a tool. And most important of all, create an inclusive environment. Let me explain that. When we decided to introduce, and we are still introducing it, AI inside our team, the first thing that came into my mind was, all right, no, I will just give AI to seniors because they are responsible and they can get AI suggestions right. Well, you might agree with that, but thinking out loud about that, well, I wasn't convinced. As we are working on an inclusive environment, on equal rights to say things, on equal possibility to go on and have more experiences, so why we have to make differences in that steps? Instead, responsibilize yourself in working on awareness and critical thinking. And that's team leaders. That's your job. Make people responsible. Not avoid people to use a tool that potentially can help their job and make them faster and hopefully better. And you can get those rules if you want using that QR code. But now, for developers that are here, today I have some rules ideas that we set up for them. First, obvious thing, but always and continuously think to that. Approach AI suggestion with an healthy level of skepticism. That's the key. Never lose these from your mind. You need to always validate them, test them. They might introduce errors. They might have security and performance problems. So test it, validate. Seek for help to senior people in order to validate what you're doing. And secondly, while validating that, if the AI suggests something that you don't know, well, that's not only a suggestion to speed up your work. It is mainly a suggestion to dive deep in that. And therefore, you can speed up your learning 10x. If you never rely only on autocompletion and go, if you dive deep in those suggestions, well, instead of only being speed up in doing things, your learning can have a huge acceleration. Third, work on inputs. So write better comments to your code, because you write comments, right? And write readable code. Some as if someone else is going to work on your code and you try to keep your code readable, that's the same for AI. The better is the code, the cleaner is the code, the best AI can help you and not block you. And we'll see how GitHub Copilot works on these, but that's obvious, but that's a key point. And lastly, use it as a tool to speed up so that you can focus on most important things. No excuses. It's not just there to help you. It's there to let you work on important things. How many times we ended up in working with repetitive tasks and 80% of the time was lost in creating mocks and whatever. Use it. Now I have to go faster. No? Okay, cool. So rules ideas for everyone. Just 2 rules ideas. If you want, we can dive deep later after the speech. But obvious 2. Use AI only if it fits in your workflow. And if it fits through your way to do things. And that's important. You are not, it's not a requirement. It can be used. Some as you can choose your IDEs, your text editor, your cloud service. Use it if it's good for you. Secondly, most importantly, that's my trademarks, actually. Beware of the Tesla effect. And I won't explain what the Tesla effect is, but I will show you. You have one more. Right? Beware of the Tesla effect. Now, I have some ideas, other ideas for you, to support development and projects. You could try to use AI, generative AI, to generate and maintain documentation. AI can read your code. AI can read your requirements. AI can read your previous documentation. If you feed code, documentation, and requirements inside an AI, you might end up with a faster way to check incorrect things in your documentation. And you will save time. Secondly, you could use AI for a preliminary code review. Code review must be done by hand, by seniors, but we can have a preliminary pass to initially check if something is really a great problem or a security flaws, so that we can have a double check, human and AI-based, intuition and complete logic and knowledge. Third, you could use AI, and we'll see it, in generating development tests, unit tests, UI tests, but you can use it, or at least try, and let me know then, but you could try to write down drafts of test books. AI can read your code, AI can read your requirements, AI can read your documents, whatever. So I would try and test it, but maybe you can end up with a test book that's not complete at all, that's not very well done at all, I think, but it can be a start. And it can reduce repetitive tasks. And fourth, maybe you could try to set up communication channels for fast support. Give AI documentation, requirements, information about the project, and maybe developers can go there and try to ask things to the AI. Then they will check at the daily with the team if something is wrong. But it's, well, a faster channel. I will be back with you shortly, and 2 days pass. No, AI is there to serve. Now, that's the final part. Just a breath for me. And AI tools for developers. So if you're using AI, you will see known tools. But if you're approaching, well, there are some tests we did, and some detection. And there are many, because the AI explosion on the market created many tools, many commercial tools. So we are going to see more and more tools. But those are the ones that we tested. So the first context in which we can use AI as developers is to get direct answers to direct questions, or to generate digital brainstorming and troubleshooting, of course. And we can use some of those tools, and some of those tools have pricing. Some of them are free, or freemium, or completely paid. The second context is code generation and test generation. And the tools that we saw worked well were those ones. And actually, I'm not that convinced about some of them, but I wanted to include the list so that you can check them. And some of them are free, one specifically is paid, and others are freemium. Beware that some of those freemium services sometimes do not provide really LLM unless you pay for it. So here are my suggestions on AI autocompletion. And that's another obvious thing, but I want to show you. I've been comparing, some days ago, GitHub Copilot with AWS Code Whisperer, Baito, and Tab9. It was a pretty rough test, fast test, but I wanted just to prove something and to show you something. So, spoiler alert. Take a look to the first column. And if you have been using GitHub Copilot, you know what I mean. But you can see my struggle. I'm writing a bad written login page. It's just a prototype. Bam. And I'm still struggling with all of those other tools to trying to get something, whatever, something out of them without any kind of luck. And probably that's my problem. But that comparison at the moment, in my opinion, says it all. And that login page code is a React login page. It's bad, I know. It's not that good, but it's a prototype. And while waiting to do something with other tool, I have the time to fine-tune it. And if I'm not happy with that, I can just go on in typing, and it will get more and more suggestions. So my choice, of course, is GitHub Copilot. I'm not sponsored by GitHub, all right? But it's GitHub Copilot because the UX is great. And its context, that's a key point, is based on any opened file. It means that keep open in your IDE at the moment, because they are working on code-based awareness, keep open all the pages that you think are key in your job, because it can read from all of them and give contextual correct answers. Has a great level of prediction. That's because it's well-trained and well-maintained. And GitHub team is continuously working on new features, and hopefully we will see a version of GitHub Copilot X as soon as possible. And there are some, let's say, tips. GitHub Copilot is free for students. And students, well, we can talk later about that adoption, right? There are some students of mine there, so we can talk about later. But it's free. My suggestion on AI chat services. That's not too much, but I've been trying to ask some simple login prototype form to different chat services, and I ended up with mixed code similar to GitHub Copilot 1. And the UI is not that bad, pretty standard, but it can be actually a prototype, not production ready, of course. I tested, GitHub Copilot Chat, which is a service that can be embedded aside from Copilot, GPT 4.0, and GPT 3.5, and Hugging Chat. Now, AI doesn't have the taste, so I think it's just by chance that those two looks great and those two are rubbish, but at least if I click on sign in, I can do actions. So my suggestion on AI chat services, if you're using AI, there's not much difference between GPT's version for prototype generation. They have good performance in explaining code. You can feed them with legacy code, and they will try to explain and comment code for you, and they are pretty good in that. They have pretty good performance in finding bugs. Sometimes they're not that right, but we need to use our brain for that. And lastly, in my opinion, unpopular probably opinion, the brainstorming performance is acceptable. Not very good, my opinion, but my choice anyway is OpenAI ChatGPT 4.0 if you have a paid account, or GitHub Copilot Chat if you have a GitHub Copilot subscription. And lastly, if you are still experimenting and needing something free, you could use GPT 3.5 and Hugging Chat. Not that advanced, of course, but still good for experiment. Sorry. And Hugging Chat is completely free and lets you use a lot of different models. So go on and try it. And also, Hugging Chat can access to the internet. I didn't mention that, but most of the others are based on the training data, and that's all. Google Bard, not ready in my opinion, and Hugging Chat, not ready too, but can access to the internet to double check. And we'll list actually sources of those informations. Now, generate tests with generative AI. I will be fast in that, but here we have a pretty standard quick sort function using Lomuto schema. That's a function pretty known by models, actually. But so I tried, and I asked GitHub Copilot to look for the selected lines of code, as Copilot is always aware of your code base, and create tests for the lines, to cover all the lines. 10 seconds later, well, it created some tests, but wait, it created 20 tests that passed. And it's a known function, so whatever, but it's still impressive, 20 tests, and all of them are actually mean something for what we are trying to do. And I could ask for more and more, but at some point I will stop and get my hands on that. But it's impressive, right? Then I tried to generate code from tests. I tried, TDD with AI. And so please, Copilot, read the selected tests and create the function. And it did it. It's a little different from my version, and actually it introduces a better way of getting the probability to sort differently, but it did it. And the function worked, and the test passed. Sorry, that's my favorite film. All right, so now the last roundup on my presentation, other tools that you can use. I've been using, and some of my team are, because they are backed by me. I'm not sponsored by Warp, but go and check it out. It's a very nice AI-powered terminal that you can use, and it will autocorrect your errors. If the terminal gives you an error, it will try to correct it. It's not always right, but it's good. And you could take a look to find, which is an alternative AI chat pair programmer, especially used for brainstorming. And it's interesting. And then know, please, that Notion has been creating an AI. And it's integrated, actually, it's GPT-based, but it's something good also for the folks there that are not that technical. And You have a QR code too. And thanks for your attention. Here's... Wow.